The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected.
He said he was going to wear a Kevlar vest and attack people with knives and hammers.
An alleged ISIS-inspired terror plot foiled. The suspect now behind bars, accused of plotting a deadly New Year's Eve attack in North Carolina. Then
you saw the young people who were totally burned in the face, who missed some fingers.
the latest in the investigation into the cause of the Swiss ski resort fire that killed at least 40 people. Then, the right and left find common ground. The issues that Senator Bernie Sanders and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis have with the AI industry's data center boom. Good evening and welcome to the National News Desk, America's News. Now, I'm Dee Dee Gatton. We're so glad you're here with us on your Friday. And in just 30 minutes, President Trump is set to meet with the U.S. ambassador to China in Palm Beach. This will camp off a day of diplomacy for the president, who spoke with the Prime Minister of Japan over the phone earlier. According to the Prime Minister's office, the two discussed promoting a free and open Indo-Pacific, a region that's been an increasing source of tension between the U.S. and China due to disagreements about Taiwan. President Trump will return to D.C. on Sunday. New tonight, the FBI says it thwarted a potential New Year's Eve terror attack in North Carolina. Federal prosecutors are charging 18-year-old Christian Sturtevant of Mint Hill, North Carolina, with providing material support to ISIS. They accuse him of planning a jihadist attack at a grocery store in the city using knives and hammers. Investigators say they found the items at his home, along with notes planning a massacre. Sturtevant was known to the FBI for years. Prosecutors say he was radicalized online and pledged his allegiance to ISIS to undercover FBI agents he believed were ISIS members. He was arrested on Christmas Eve and appeared in court today.
It was a very well-planned, thoughtful attack that he had planned and that was fortunately foiled here. He was preparing for jihad, and innocent people were going to die. And we're very, very fortunate they did not.
Prosecutors want Sturtevant to remain detained ahead of his detention hearing. He faces a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. Additional charges may be filed. It's not immediately clear if Sturtevant has a lawyer, but we know he has not yet entered a plea. The Washington, D.C. pipe bombing suspect will stay in jail until trial. A federal judge issued this ruling today following hearing on Wednesday. Brian Cole Jr.'s attorney wanted him released into his grandmother's custody. Prosecutors argued this would present a danger to others. Cole's accused of planting pipe bombs near the DNC and RNC buildings on January 5th, 2021. We are learning about potentially more fraud stemming from the state of Minnesota, this time over suspected fraudulent activity regarding COVID-era lending programs. The National News Desk, Taylor Murray, has more.
A sweeping federal fraud investigation into pandemic-era relief programs has escalated in Minnesota. The U.S. Small Business Administration has now moved to suspend thousands of borrowers tied to suspected abuse of COVID-19 aid. After reviewing thousands of Paycheck Protection Program and economic injury disaster loan approvals issued during the pandemic, the SBA has moved to suspend 6,900 Minnesota borrowers for this suspected fraudulent activity. According to Small Business Administration Administrator Kelly Loeffler, these borrowers were collectively approved for about 7,900 loans. And according to her post on X, these loans totaled roughly $400 million.
This looks like a complex scheme that was set up to defraud taxpayers, our federal government, of needed funds that would have gone out during COVID for hungry families, for children, for small businesses.
The Small Business Administration will now pause annual funding to Minnesota. In a letter to Governor Tim Walz, SBA says over $5.5 million in federal annual support will be halted for concerns about oversight failures. The borrowers implicated in the suspected pandemic-era fraud are also banned from all future SBA loan programs, including disaster assistance, effective immediately. And cases will also be referred to federal law enforcement for potential prosecution and repayment. President Trump recently criticized pandemic-era spending and oversight saying this on New Year's Eve.
I view that as a reason for good news because we're going to get to the bottom and we're going to get that money back. It's all coming back.
The SBA's actions come amid a broader federal effort to pursue cases tied to pandemic-era relief fraud. Multiple federal agencies, including the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security, have announced investigations into related schemes in Minnesota. I'm Taylor Murray with the National News Desk.
Multiple people are still missing after a fire at a Swiss ski resort yesterday, which killed at least 40 people and injured nearly 120 others. Authorities say it could take several days to identify the victims. Today, officials announced the likely cause of the fire.
Some hypotheses can be confirmed. As things stand, everything points to the fire starting from sparklers or flares placed in champagne bottles that came too close to the ceiling, which very rapidly led to a flashover fire.
Authorities are examining whether the sound muffling material on the ceiling complied with regulations. The co-owner of the bar told a French newspaper that all rules were followed. Witnesses described the horror of the incident at Constellation Bar, where teens were ringing in the new year.
You saw the young people who were totally burned in the face, who missed some fingers, here laying on the streets.
You know, it was a big shock, right? Everyone was very cold inside. And they come out suddenly, they're freezing temperature. So I think that was one of the biggest issues, was the smoke, the fire, but also the temperature extreme difference.
Horrifying details. Around 50 injured victims have been or will be transferred to hospitals in other European countries, according to a Swiss official. A memorial is growing outside of Spencer and Monique Tappy's home in Ohio as Columbus police continue to investigate a double homicide. Officers responded to a welfare check on Tuesday after Spencer, a dentist, failed to show up for work. Police found the couple dead from gunshot wounds. They did not find a gun, and there were no obvious signs of a break-in. Anyone with information should call the Columbus Police Homicide Unit or Central Ohio Crime Stoppers. The body of missing Alabama 5-year-old Jonathan Everett Boley has been found. Walker County Sheriff Nick Smith said Boley's remains were discovered a few miles away from his home. Smith said the child's father had been arrested in connection with the investigation. Authorities said Boley went missing on December 31st, prompting a search. And New York City's new mayor, Zohran Mamdani, has reversed some executive orders signed by his predecessor. Mamdani canceled an order that broadened the definition of anti-Semitism. He also revoked an order that banned city employees and agencies from boycotting or divesting from Israel. Israel's foreign ministry called the move anti-Semitic. New York City's Office to Combat Anti-Semitism will stay in place. Political dynasties might not be new for politics, but a new crop of hopeful lawmakers are asking voters if their family names can help win an election. The National News Desk, Matt Gelka, has the story.
The Kennedy name has been associated with U.S. politics for decades.
I, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
I, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is the current health secretary, joining a Republican administration from a historic Democratic family. He's the latest Kennedy to have power in Washington, and Jack Schlossberg wants to be the next one. He's JFK's grandson and RFK Jr.'s cousin, and he's running for Congress in New York as a Democrat.
I'm running for office because 250 years after our country was founded, we're in a crisis, unlike we've seen before. It's a serious moment, and it's a crisis on almost every single level.
So-called Nepo babies are popping up in political races around the country. Another name from a presidential bloodline wants to be Maine's next Republican governor. Jonathan Bush, nephew of George H.W. and cousin to George W. Bush, is stepping into the political arena.
We bought a poll and had the fancy pollster come and ask, and one of the questions was, what do you think of the Bushes? And in Maine, 70% of likely voters like the Bushes.
Hi, I'm Christine Pelosi.
There's another Pelosi in California, with the daughter of former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi looking to grab a California state Senate seat.
I'm going to fight, and believe me, I know how.
And in New Hampshire, Stephanie Shaheen, the daughter of retiring Senator Jean Shaheen, hopes to be elected to Congress there.
Does name recognition translate into election wins? At least one member of Congress, Arizona's Adelita Grijalva, already won a special election, taking over for her late father, Raul Grijalva. She won the seat in Congress after a competitive primary. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka.
Coming up, President Trump threatens U.S. intervention in Iran as protests turn deadly. More on what Trump said and Iran's response. And later, the new kind of power the Army is testing that could change how America thinks about nuclear energy. Plus, New Year's Eve violence. Police are investigating after a party turned dangerous, resulting in 5 teens shot. We're back in 90 seconds. Today, another day of protests over the country's spiraling economy. Now, as some protesters have been killed, President Trump and some top Iranian officials are exchanging social media threats about potential U.S. intervention. The National News Desk, Atra El-Nashar, reports.
President Trump threatening U.S. involvement as protests in Iran turn deadly. Iranians defying their oppressive government and taking to the streets as their economy deteriorates under a soaring cost of living. It all began as the value of Iran's currency dropped to an all-time low. On Sunday, retailers in the capital city of Tehran closed their stores and stalls in protests, demonstrations erupting through the capital and the country. As of Friday afternoon, 10 people have been killed, according to a Kurdish human rights organization, which has released some of their photos. At 3 a.m. Friday, President Trump posting, if Iran kills peaceful protesters, quote, the United States of America will come to their rescue. We are locked and loaded and ready to go. In response, the Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council writes in a translated post, Trump must realize that U.S. intervention in this internal matter will lead to destabilizing the entire region and destroying American interests. The American people must know that Trump is the one who started this adventure, and they should pay attention to the safety of their soldiers. The Speaker of Iran's parliament saying, the disrespectful president of America should also know that with this official admission, all American centers and forces across the entire region will be legitimate targets for us in response to any potential adventurism. Last summer, after the U.S. struck 3 Iranian nuclear facilities, Iran retaliated with a missile attack on Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, the regional hub of U.S. Central Command. There were no casualties. Earlier this week, President Trump said this about a potential second U.S. strike on Iran.
I hear that Iran is trying to build up again, and if they are, we're going to have to knock them down. We'll knock them down. We'll knock the hell out of them.
2 days later, Iran's president implied the U.S. cannot defeat them with bombs, fighter jets, and missiles.
If we remain determined, united, and committed to working together to make our country proud, it would be impossible for them to bring Iran to its knees.
In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar reporting.
The president of Venezuela says he's open to negotiating an agreement with the U.S. to combat drug trafficking. President Nicolas Maduro said in a pre-taped interview aired on state television that he believes the U.S. wants a regime change in Venezuela to gain access to its vast oil reserves. He says Venezuela is ready for U.S. investment in its oil. Maduro declined to comment on the CIA-led strike last week at a Venezuelan docking area that the Trump administration says was used by cartels, the first known attack on Venezuelan oil. soil. President Trump is touting his health following reports that he takes a higher dose of aspirin than his doctors recommend. In a Truth Social post, Trump says White House doctors report he is in, quote, perfect health and that he aced a cognitive exam. The 79-year-old told the Wall Street Journal in an interview published yesterday that he had a CAT scan in October, but it was preventative. President Trump is covering some of the costs of the new White House ballroom, according to officials. The White House says Trump visited a stone and tile store near Mar-a-Lago today and bought marble and onyx. The cost of the renovation is between $200 and $400 million. Trump previously said private donors contributed $350 million. Age could be one of the most influential factors on Americans' political views. In a new CNN poll, 60%, you see right there, of respondents said they have a lot of common interests and concerns with other people in their generation. Only 43% said this is the case for the same gender, and 39% said that this is about people of their same race. Developing right now, progressive Senator Bernie Sanders and Republican Florida Governor Ron DeSantis find common ground as major skeptics of the AI industry's data center boom. Sanders wants a moratorium on data center construction, telling CNN that the industry is a job killer. DeSantis unveiled an AI Bill of Rights in December. It would protect local areas' right to block data center build out, among other provisions.
And what this is going to do is create a patchwork of regulatory regimes where if you're an AI company, and not just a big company, but a little company, you could just be an innovator, a startup entrepreneur, you've now got to figure out how to comply with 50 different regulatory regimes.
That's White House AI advisor David Sachs after President Trump's executive order prohibiting states from imposing rules hemming in the industry. That order is likely to face significant legal scrutiny. They're small enough to fit on a truck, but powerful enough to run an entire town. Nuclear micro-reactors are drawing growing attention as a possible solution for clean, reliable energy, though major hurdles remain before they show up in local communities. The National News Desk, Kelly Gaskins has that story from Washington.
When many people think of nuclear power, they picture massive plants spanning hundreds of acres. But a new generation of technology could shrink that footprint dramatically. Nuclear microreactors are the smallest type of nuclear reactor, producing less than 20 megawatts of power. Small enough to ship by truck, but strong enough to supply a data center, a college campus, or a small town.
Like replacing a remote diesel generator in an Alaskan village or at a remote mine site. The administration is supporting all of these efforts.
The U.S. Army is now moving closer to making these a reality. As part of its Janus program, the Army has identified 9 installations under consideration to host microreactor power plants, including Fort Bragg, Fort Hood, and Fort Drum. Army leaders say on-site nuclear power would help protect bases from grid failures and from cyber or physical attacks on civilian energy infrastructure.
I want to thank President Trump for making a nuclear renaissance possible.
The administration says it's pushing for a broad range of next-generation nuclear technologies.
Ultimately, we'll demo probably 10 different reactor designs in the next 24 months. Very exciting times. I think we'll see shovels in the ground building small modular reactors.
Unlike traditional nuclear plants that take years to build, microreactors are designed to be factory built and deployed quickly. But that speed comes with a catch. Companies need major upfront investment to build factories, while potential customers want to see the technology proven before placing orders.
And after decades of public mistrust around nuclear power, community acceptance may be the biggest hurdle for this new technology when it's ready for community use. In Washington, I'm Kaylee Gaskins reporting for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
Tesla is no longer the world's best-selling electric vehicle maker, losing the title to Chinese competitor BYD. The U.S. automaker said it delivered 1.64 million cars last year, less than the year before. BYD sold more than 2 million vehicles. Tesla's numbers were hit hard after the expiration of a tax credit for EV purchases, which was phased out by the Trump administration last year. Coming up next year on the National News Desk, affordable housing. We're going to take a look at funds that went to helping homeowners and renters in one state, according to a new report. have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. We are taking the pulse of America. And we started in Texas, where 5 people were injured in a New Year's Eve shooting.
Well, last night we were all hanging out over here, and then all of a sudden you just hear like gunshots, boom, boom, boom. And, you know, I get the kids run over here, and then I see just everybody running. You're hearing screaming. You see there's like 1 million cars all down the streets, all the ambulances. Everybody was right here.
Samantha Sanchez says she's lived at the Chisholm Trail Apartments for 6 years and has never experienced anything as chaotic as the New Year's Eve fight. Round Rock police say shots were fired during a confrontation between partygoers. 5 juveniles with gunshot wounds were taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. 3 of the victims are from Pflugerville and 2 are from Austin.
How many people would you say it was that were over here? Oh, man, there was about 100. Like, it was full. Like, everybody was here.
Samantha showed us a bullet she says was found on the ground near where the crowd was hanging out. Her neighbors say it's another reason for police to step up patrols.
It wouldn't take anything for a stray bullet to come, you know, through our home into where we're sleeping. And that just, like, that terrifies me and breaks my heart.
When potent storms blew in just weeks ago, entire neighborhoods ended up submerged throughout the region, and all the property damage is still being tallied.
I know some areas over here by Carpenitos, all that was flooded, houses too.
King County, as well as Pierce, Snohomish, and Whatcom counties, all offer voluntary programs to buy properties that sit in areas prone to this kind of damage. The process can sometimes take years, and not everyone who applies is eligible, but it may be an option to consider.
It definitely makes more sense, and it also makes people feel safer looking into the future for buying houses and everything, that things haven't just been rebuilt in the same places where they're going to flood again.
In King County, any homeowner in a flood-prone area of unincorporated land may apply for the voluntary buyout program. If approved, the county purchases the property at fair market value, removes any homes or other structures, and restores the land as natural open space. One example is the Lower Russell Levee Setback Project, which is now wildlife habitat and uses outdoor recreation. Still, not everyone thinks these programs are a good use of public dollars.
People got to live. The more you push people out, the more the traffic gets up, the more gas you got to pay to get to work, and it's terrible.
Tina Holbrook lives in affordable housing in Salt Lake City.
The possibility was made open to be here because of all the wonderful people here and the funding.
Her building is one of many projects funded by the state and city. And while Tina is renting for now, homebuyers can also receive help statewide. According to this report, a majority of affordable housing funds went to Utah Housing Corporation's mortgage lending programs in 2022. President and CEO David Damshin says the corporation is an independent state agency.
The vast majority of down payment assistance that we've provided over our 50 years in existence has been money that we've generated from our own operation. In recent years, though, the legislature has stepped in, and the governor as well.
They've created programs that help first-time homebuyers and law enforcement.
How has this specifically served Utahns?
He highlights 2 programs that helped over 600 law enforcement personnel.
It became increasingly important, I think, during the pandemic to focus on the needs of first responders.
And 3,000 first-time homebuyers.
We were helping people achieve the American dream of buying their first home. Especially people who don't have a lot of money saved up for a down payment. We provide down payment assistance, and we help people buy homes and afford to buy homes when they didn't think that they could.
Coming up, starting off the weekend with a supermoon and meteor shower when the lunar event will be at its lightest and brightest. is kicking off with a couple of big celestial events. The first is a wolf moon, which will grace the sky this weekend. The wolf moon is 2026's first supermoon, which generally indicates a full moon that's closer than normal to Earth and seems larger and brighter in the sky. Then a quadranted meteor shower will reach peak activity Saturday night. Astronomers say the shower will be active through January 16th. Love that view. Rhode Island firefighters rescued a dog that fell through ice in a pond on New Year's Day. Aw, Phoenix, a yellow lab in the distance there, was on a walk with his owner who was on shore. Firefighters wore ice rescue suits and helped get Phoenix onto an inflatable rescue boat. Officials said the dog and his rescuers are now doing well. A good reminder to all the pet parents out there taking walks during this time of year. That's going to do it for us for this edition of the National News Desk. We invite you to join us again tonight at 10. I'm Dee Dee. We'll see you tonight.